a variety of speakers about water futures. And um, let's make this not too, don't make this too formal. So um, I'll start by inviting the chair of the committee to give a sort of an opening remarks. My mentor and academician at the National Academy of Science and Technology, Professor Emeritus of UPIC and former PIC President, Dr. Benito Pacheco.
Wow, that's informal enough. Thank you, Harold. Um, it's a cozy setting. We intended that both members from societies of the Asian Civil Engineering Coordinating Council and other invited members and speakers could talk about something of common interest, water. Uh, there are a few slides I'd like to go through, just so mental notes, hopefully, would make us remember this day. It's rare. It's only once in 4 years that we have a date of Feb 29, you notice. So let's take advantage of this momentous calendar date. Can I show a few slides? Um, as mentioned, we are organizing this on behalf of the Asian Society Civil Engineering Coordinating Council. Members are more than 1.5 dozen Asian and Pacific societies. The committee is about interdisciplinary strategic foresight for infrastructure. Infrastructure maybe is a given, but interdisciplinary is not quite second nature to us. So we try our best today to learn from each other, regardless whether engineer or not engineer. Strategic hopefully is becoming more operational because planning linearly for 20, 30, 50 years is not maybe strategy enough. So continuing on, how do I operate this? Next slide. From here. Thank you. Okay. But just so we are all aware what the Coordinating Council is trying to do and all the member societies from Asia and Pacific, allow me to mention that 3 years ago or so, this technical committee was formed, which, and just in the meetings today and tomorrow, being approved for another 3 years to continue the effort. 21 committee members, individual members from among, if you read here, about 8 member societies, and we're in the process of renewing and adding more members because interest is growing. And I'd like to make special mention, one of our speakers today is representing Future Earth Philippines. I call it a node of an international movement of scientists, and not only engineers, but all kinds of scientists. And then that the Philippine Futures Thinking Society, PhilFutures, with a network of 100 higher education institutions in the Philippines. The PICE is a pioneer member as a professional society, and so it should be another door to open our perspectives. Formally, these are the 3 objectives of the committee, and I should say our session today also. Integrating knowledge on strategic foresight across various disciplines. I go back and all the time to that CEs, civil engineers, would learn much from other professionals, and maybe other professionals also from CEs. And that, yes, we share the lofty long-term goals of attaining sustainability, resilience, and agility among in the built environment. And more pragmatically, that hopefully these 3 years or 6 years of committee work could produce a compendium of materials that could be references or source of information and ideas, even for civil engineering education purposes at the undergrad. Why not? So yes, let's get on with this series, one of a series of seminars, and specifically water futures. I would like to say water is a common interest of 2 or more committees in the ACECC, and I'd like to make special mention, attend another session tomorrow, maybe similar room, and we'll discuss more about water. I give it back to Harold to take us to the afternoon's activities. I think he invented some kind of exercise for us. Next. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Benny. We'll start with a bit of an exercise, so I want everyone's participation for this part. As an academic, I normally discourage the use of phone in a session, in a meeting, but for this, I would request everyone to bring out their phones. Yes, so that we can all participate. So this part is titled Urban Waterways 2050, a Futures Thinking Exercise. So let your imaginations run wild. So to join this activity, you can scan this QR code that will bring you to, or that will enable you to join the activity, or you can type in your browser slido.com and enter the code #22366136. So for those joining online via FB Live or via Zoom, you may also scan this QR code or go to slido.com and type in the code. All right, I'll flash the QR code again later for those who aren't able to join at this point. But just to make it clear, the first slide isn't really a typo. We actually meant futures, not future. Why do we refer to futures in plural? Because when we think about the future, we should think about the endless possibilities, the different possibilities there are. We should not just linearly extrapolate or maybe tweak a bit and think of a single future. This actually reminds me of this scene in the Avengers, where Doctor Strange was asked how many futures he had seen, and he said he saw 14,605,000 possibilities, and they win in only one of those 14 million ones. Now, why do we talk about multiple futures? This hinges on three things. The first one is that the future is not exactly predictable. Second one is it's not predetermined. And the third one is that the future can be influenced by our series of choices. Now let's start the Imagineering activity. So for those who were unable to join earlier, the QR code is here again. Or you can go to slido.com on your browser and type in the code 2236136. Now, if it helps you imagine, you can close your eyes. Nobody will judge you. But let's start imagining. So the year is 2050. You look outside your window in your condominium unit in a high-rise building, and you see the nearby urban waterway. You stand amazed with the view, and you mutter to yourself, "Oh, well, perfect. I love waking up to this." So how would you describe the waterways view? Now, let's try to be as vivid as we can. You can put as many adjectives as you can. Actually, the inputs there are unlimited. What do you see? Do you see trees? Do you see birds? How about the coast? And just to make this interesting, what I'll do is I'll harvest all these keywords that you put in here. I'll put them in an AI generator so that we can generate an image of what these things in combination would look like. But I have my contingencies because I'm not quite confident of the internet connectivity here. When I tried this morning, before I flew in, it took me 40 seconds to generate an image, but during lunch, when I tried, it took about 2 minutes, so I have my contingencies. Wow, anyone else would like to add what they see, what the color of the water is, how sprawl the foliages would be. Okay, so the image generation is taking long, but fortunately for us, I pre-generated an image this morning. Would this be somewhere close to what you imagined? Not quite. Maybe the ideal future varies from one to another because our preferred future would actually depend on our values and our different preferences, right? Our past experiences would shape our preference of a future. Now, the next thing I wish for everyone to imagine, again, same imagining. 2050, you look outside your window, but the difference is that between today and 2050, we don't change anything. We do all things with business as usual. How would you describe your view? Again, try to be vivid with your what you imagine with your descriptions. You can start with what the color of water is, what floats on the water. How about the adjacent communities? You can key in multiple adjectives. So the first thing we imagine is sort of our dream future waterway in 2050. Now we're trying to imagine if we don't do anything, if we don't change anything, what would our urban waterways look like in 2050? Okay, now I think this generates an image more easily. I think because it has like more descriptive adjectives. Okay, let me just paste the image. Okay, so this is what we are able to generate from your descriptions. I don't see the boats though, but close enough, right? Close enough. If we don't do anything, if we just keep on doing what we're doing now, our waterway would look like this in 2050. Now we can talk about a lot of different variations of this. The second one we talk about is what we call the projected future. When we talk about simply extrapolating what we know now, and we keep on doing that until we go to the future, that's what we call the projected future or the default future. Now the first thing we talked about, these reflects our ideas of what constitutes us ideal, what constitutes us nice, preferable, and this is what we call the preferred or the preferable future. These are the things that we want to happen. These are the things that we think should happen. And you see that the space of the preferable future spans from the projected one up to the preposterous one. So some of us would actually imagine a future that's close to the extrapolation of what we have now. But some of us are dreamers. Some of us would possibly or would hope for a future that may be hard to reach or maybe close to improbable. Now, so Yeah. So the next thing I want us to do is to imagine what unexpected events could adversely impact our waterways future. What could happen that could adversely affect, that could set us back in achieving our preferred or our envisioned waterway? Between now and 2050, what are the things that could happen that could adversely impact our waterways future? It could be, I think, PESEL, political, environmental, social, technological, legal, economic. Rapid, I see on the screen rapid urbanization, encroachment, drought, climate change, the massive industrialization resulting in industrial discharge, world war, that's a possibility. Crossing fingers, it doesn't happen. Okay, let's flip over to the positive things that could happen that could help us propel towards, that could propel us towards our preferred future. What are these unexpected events that could positively impact our waterways future? For those who just came in, you can still participate in this activity by scanning the QR code on the screen, or you can go to slido.com and type in 2236, hashtag 2236136. That first one is funny. Ethical leadership. So it it seems unexpected to this group, but I hope it's something that we can expect. Uh, it- Someone keyed in strong political will, technological breakthrough, integrated water resources management. The reason I'm asking these things is because when we think about our futures, when we think about making our preferred future happen, we need to think about the things that could either set us back or propel us towards that preferred future. There are two types of things that we need to watch out for, because it's easy to think about the mundane ones that we can already see, the current trends. It's easy to see that and everybody can extrapolate that. But we need to be on the lookout for wild cards. Wildcard events are things that are imaginable, yet the possibility is quite low. The probability is quite low. And we also need to be on the lookout for black swan events. So black swan events are highly improbable and maybe never been seen before, but could definitely impact our journey towards our preferred future. So these two. So somebody mentioned about world war. Somebody mentioned about maybe technological breakthrough. We can imagine what kind of technological breakthrough would help us gear towards the ideal urban waterway. Now the third thing that we can use as a tool in futures thinking is what we call the futures triangle. So in this, we start with looking at the past. What happened in the past, or what are the past events that are holding us back? And then we ask what current trends could propel us to the future. And this we can do, as I mentioned earlier, through PESEL analysis, but there are other tools we can use as well. And the third one is the pulse of the future. Basically, with the pulse of the future, it talks about us strengthening or making a vivid vision of our desired, our preferred future, so that drives us, that pulls us towards that, so that we make conscious decisions towards our preferable future. Now, this last tool, and this will also be part of the exercise, is what we call backcasting. Backcasting is we start with the preferred future and we try to move back to the present. We see what sort of progress we've had moving back. So if this is our preferred, if this is how our preferred waterway in 2050 would look like, or if we actually woke up in 2050 to this idyllic view of an urban waterway, what steps do we take between 2024 and 2050 to get us there? And by backcasting, we literally go backwards from 2050. What could we have seen in 2040? What could we have seen and done in 2030? What could we have seen and done in 2025 in a year's time? So that's what backcasting is. In the context of most of us here in this room are civil engineers, we could ask, if we woke up in 2050 seeing that view outside your window, what specific actions would we have taken to get there? This is the last question I'll be asking from you, and then after this, I'll show a few of the AI-generated images. I'm seeing on the screen detailed planning. We can also see on the screen how many of us are participating. More social science, social action. True enough, this wouldn't be an interdisciplinary strategic foresight if we isolate this this initiative to us, to our society, civil engineering societies. Be open to collaboration, get involved in sustainability initiatives, take care of the environment, lead and set an example, research on cost-efficient technologies in cleaning the water, and so on. So these are some of the AI-generated image. My prompt here is that what would our waterways look like if we industrialized heavily, which resulted in unsustainable water use? So this is how it will look like. What if we did not have enough concern for the waste we generate and how we manage them? So this would probably be how it will look like. Yeah, so these are some of the AI-generated image. I also demonstrated its use because it will also help us in our futures thinking activities. All right, I think that's enough for our icebreaker. Let me now introduce to you our first speaker. All right, so our first speaker is a national scientist and a member of the National Academy of Science and Technology. She's also a Professor Emerita of the Marine Science Institute of UP Diliman. She leads Future Earth Philippines under the NAST DOST, which is a national member of Future Earth, a global network of researchers and scientists working towards a sustainable planet. One of the two pioneers in biochemical characterization and discovery of neuropeptides of Philippine conus marine snail venoms. She has won several local awards and 5 international awards, including the 2010 L'Oreal UNESCO Award for Women in Science and the 2022 Golden Goose Award administered by AAAS for federally funded basic research on seemingly obscure studies that have led to major breakthroughs and significant social impact. To share with us her talk on interdisciplinary and inclusive approach to water futures, let us welcome with a warm round of applause National Scientist Dr. Lourdes Cruz.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm not an engineer, and yeah, I'll discuss this because of our involvement in Future Earth. Future Earth is a global initiative for the use of science and technology for sustainability and resilience. So the title is Interdisciplinary and Inclusive Approach to Water Futures as we are applying them now to the Philippines. And so Future Earth, so we're linked to Future Earth, and Future Earth Philippines was formed by a group of scientists, natural scientists, social scientists, technologists, businessmen, different stakeholders. We got together and we decided to advocate and work for the participation of all sectors in a national effort to increase the country's capacity and to reduce its biocapacity and to reduce its ecological footprint. Our biocapacity has gone down about 50% in the past since 1960, and our footprint has increased, significantly also. So that's a big problem, and the Philippines is now in non-sustainable mode of existence. And so our one of immediate aims is try to help the Philippines attain the SDGs. And as you see here, the foundation for sustainability is really the biosphere. We need to have a healthy biosphere in order to be sustainable. So in that biosphere, we need one of the components, the clean water, for us to be sustainable. And that foundation supports the society, to develop, and the society develops progressive economy. And so our current focus are the flooding problems in the wetland, the riparian towns of Pampanga and Bulacan, that area there that's encircled. And it's a wicked problem. It's been going on for a long time. And we are trying to use, as a wicked problem, we have to use transdisciplinary and inclusive approach to problem solving. So inclusive, meaning that we have to do diagnosis of the problem involving different stakeholders. And the approach has to be regional, all within the watershed. And as mentioned earlier, it's holistic. We want to have a look at it from the PESO's point of view. The additional S is for security. And co-design, inclusive means also that in addition to co-diagnosis, we have to co-design possible solutions with the different stakeholders. So we also are trying to do a knowledge-based, knowledge to action projects. So the approach has to be, and regional systems approach, and futures thinking is very important, looking at future scenarios and unintended consequences. And so the process, as Glenn Tabios has been saying, reminding us all the time, it has to be reiterative and review what's been happening the past maybe 4 or 5 years, and that the governance should be adapted. And so this is what happened in July to August. So we had a terrible flood in central Luzon. And before that, we visited the communities that have already been having daily floods for the past decade. So it's been a long problem. And we got feedbacks from the community, like from the LGU, the efforts to address the flooding problems. They include dikes and raising of the roads every 5 years. And that leaves the houses, being submerged in water, because sometimes the water cannot get out. And residents are aware that only those with enough financial capacity can add upper floors to their houses to serve as living quarters. And others give up and just abandon their houses completely. And those with limited finances seek refuge with relatives or community facilities when there are typhoons and massive flooding. But despite the problem, some residents refuse to leave the communities where they have spent all their lives. It's some sentimental value. And so these, because of floods, the sanitation problems, and then the schools, the schedule, the frequent suspension of classes and absences, and daily exposure of children to floodwaters on the way to school. And so this is really a wicked problem that requires complex, multifaceted challenges, and the factors are interconnected and quite ambiguous. And so it's difficult to address using a linear problem-solving methods, but we are now exploring the flooding problem using 3 essential analytical tools: problem tree analysis, objective tree analysis, and drafting of strategic pathways and strategic frameworks, all of these being done in transdisciplinary manner and inclusive manner. And so we have done a series of consultations with the communities, different government agencies, and there are also participants from schools and non-governmental organizations. And so this consultation with stakeholders, and some politicians were also there. So we came, all the inputs from the participants were put together, in constructing this problem tree. And they identified the main problem, various causes, the causes, immediate causes, intermediate causes, and root causes, and then what are the consequences of the main problem, immediate, intermediate, and ultimate consequences. So this is a very complicated problem tree, but I'll just show you that the immediate causes identified were excessive rainfall, clogged drainage, soil erosion, heavily silted riverways and waterways, ground subsidence, sea level rise in Manila Bay, and obstruction of the natural drainage system. And tracing it down to different levels of causes, and the root cause ultimately is the lack of official and citizen understanding of the geophysical environmental causes of the problem, lack of government resolve and commitment of resources to solve flooding problems, lack of citizen organization in response to flooding, and absence of effective strategic plans at the regional level. So it all goes down to the people. And in terms of the consequences, so we have flooded all the streets, schools, houses, government offices, workspaces, and the commercial and social spaces are flooded. And so there are intermediate consequences of that. And ultimately, the consequence is, the poor quality of life of people in the flooded towns of the 2 provinces. And so based on the problem tree, constructed also an objectives tree. And so the main objective is to turn around that main problem. So we want to have diminished, limited, and abated flood conditions in Pampanga and Bulacan towns. And to address the root causes, there should be officials and citizens should understand the geophysical environmental causes. Government should resolve to solve flooding problems and commit resources. And so there should be citizen organization involvement in strategic plans affect at the regional landscape. Okay, so those are the immediate causes that were identified, and rather the objectives to address the immediate causes. And so in terms of addressing the consequences shown earlier, so the ultimate objective is really to transform so that the people will have a good quality of life, and that is by diminishing the flood, diminished and abate the flood conditions. And some examples of this, is, well, the streets should be passable, conducive schools, livable houses, functional government offices, rice fields, and water spaces not flooded, and also the commercial and religious spaces. So the aim of this series of activities is to demonstrate a regional system approach to a wicked problem by having a transdisciplinary inclusive approach that is science-based, innovative, inclusive, and transdisciplinary. So we have to work harder on this. We suggest the reiteration of the process as about every 5 years because conditions change. And we hope we can urge the leaders and other stakeholders to applying the approach to other wicked problems of local and national importance. And so we look at the definition of water security by UN Water, that this is to safeguard sustainable access to adequate quantities of acceptable water quality for sustaining livelihoods, human well-being, and socioeconomic development, for ensuring protection against waterborne pollution, water-related disasters, and for preserving ecosystems in a climate of peace and political stability. And these are the components of or how we can attain water security. So there's not just it's not just looking at governance, as indicated by the problem tree analysis. There should be it's not only the drinking water, human well-being that's involved, and then the water-related hazards, addressing this, but there should, and the economic activities as well. But it's important that we keep the ecosystem healthy. Okay, and again, this goes back, to show the importance of having a healthy biosphere as the foundation for human well-being, sustainable economic development, and the security of our water's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Luli. Okay, we now move to our next speaker. So our next speaker is a Professor Emeritus at the Institute of Civil Engineering of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He obtained his PhD in Civil Engineering from Colorado State University, Fort Collins in 1984. He is also a member of the National Academy of Science and Technology since 2010, and he is an honorary member of the Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers since 2023. He teaches and conducts researches in stochastic and computational hydrology and hydraulics, as well as water resources system engineering. A significant part of his work in the last 2 decades is contained in his book titled Water Resources System of the Philippines, Modeling Studies, published by Springer International. Let's give a warm round of applause for Dr. Guillermo Q. Tabios III. Doc Leng, take the floor.
Thanks a lot, Harold. So let me get into my presentation. How do you make it full? Okay, good. So in the last 12, 13 years, I've been involved in trying to craft the water superbody for the Philippines. So I kind of you know, after all these years, it's kind of a saga already to me when I talk about legislation, because I think, and I'll explain later on, why we need that. So this is kind of a water futures and hindsighting instead of foresighting, actually. Oh, what happened there? Okay, good. So in the abstract, in my talk, I really wanted to just revisit this ongoing effort to create this department. So again, I mentioned that in the last decade, we have 3 presidents. Every time there is a state of the nation, they talk about creation of this department. So I'll talk about milestones, rationale, and structure of how this agency can efficiently manage our country's water resources. Okay, so in the beginning, about 12 years ago, when our new president, President Noynoy Aquino came, we had already this so many years of water sector roadmaps, like during the time of President Ramos and then our President Macapagal, but they were just like wish list, roadmap, we do this, we do that, and so on. And then one time I had a meeting with our Secretary General of the, the Director General of the National Economic Development Authority, Don Paduranga, and then he asked me, what do you think we can do? And I always said that nobody's in charge when we talk about water resource planning and management or development in the Philippines. So all those roadmaps, they're good, but different agencies, maybe they will look at it, looks good, we need a budget for that, but it's not quite integrated in a sense that when you look at a water resource system, you have so many sources and so many uses. That's a little bit different from energy. And in fact, we created a Department of Energy, which is sort of an apex body where you have so many sources, but you have only one use. You want to have energy. In our case, we want to have water for water supply or irrigation, and we want to have also to control waters from pollution, being polluted, or flood control. So different uses for that purpose. So if you look at the water governance structure in the Philippines, it starts with this and that, but I'm going to show you more. So I was asked by then Secretary Paduranga if you can write a policy paper in what you think about, all these things. So let's just quick. But the big picture during the time was really trying to look at the different water agencies in the Philippines. And we kind of created, if you think about traditional science, we created separate disciplines, but this one separate governance approaches to the different sectors. And in fact, that particular presentation, what kind of triggered me that why don't we take a look at what the different government water-related agencies do as far as planning, as far as data monitoring, scientific studies, and so on. And you can see a lot of overlaps, but they're all fragmented institutions. In fact, we have about 30 of them doing similar things, but not integrated manner and not harmonized or coordinated. So that was the big thing. So our recommendation then was to create this apex body. During the time, we were just saying a super body, a water super body. And the guiding principles, number one is good water governance. For water security, and National Scientist Cruz was showing what it takes to have the water security. And nowadays, we even talk about trying to prevent water insecurity, right? When it goes about hazards and so on. But the idea is that when we talk about good water governance, the agency should have legitimacy through transparency, public trust through accountability, and then credibility through participatory process. And I think when you make decisions, it should be engaging stakeholders. And in fact, the body or the super body really wanted not just to coordinate, but to create partnerships. And I think that's very important. Nowadays, we cannot just tell agencies that you do this, do that, which is what you call pedagogic approach, rather than it should be dialogic. We talk, we dialogue, etc. And that's how we then earn credibility and so on. And of course, being an archipelagic country, the Philippines, where the mountains is just about 30 kilometers to the coast or even 15 kilometers to the coast, we need to think in terms of integrated water resources and coastal planning and management. So IWRCPM, something like that. So that's for the different water uses, as I mentioned, and even control of waters, which is floods and pollution. And of course, we need the data, we need scientific decision support system, and then of course, we have to recognize that not only when we talk about the benefits of water, but maybe even the benefits of some of these floods. But of course, we have to think in terms of mitigating water-related hazards. So I think, so then after the policy paper we have, then we are again commissioned to write the bells and whistles of a Superbody, a water Superbody. So way back in 2012, we came up with an EO to accelerate, to come up with that water body, and then together with legislation, which we think it will take so much time. But of course, it didn't happen. And then, but the idea is that if you look at the water governance structure in the Philippines, it's on the current one, and until now, it's sectoral. If you look at the different agencies, you think in terms of water management, some agencies here and there, flood control, irrigation, it's in that manner. So the concept or the idea of creating an apex body, what we thought of is that it should be functional according to policy and planning, according to data collection. That way in one house, it's a one-stop, one house, in one house, you can do integrated water resources and coastal planning and management. Otherwise, we never talk to each other. And in fact, from a sustainability science point of view, what we want to have is an integrated knowledge, integrate natural, social, and engineering sciences, if you want to put it that way. But the idea here is that we want to be functional rather than sectoral. So that's how the Department of Water Resources is structured. Now, one of the other things that I always want to emphasize is the budget. The sort of acting like an apex body in the past or until now is the National Water Resource Board. Before it was the National Water Resource Council, but it was reduced to a board where they do water permitting and so on. Talking about the population in the Philippines, 110 million, more or less, 250,000 square kilometers. The annual budget for that sort of water super body is only like $2.2 million. So the Department of Water, we're looking at 35 million US dollars. And you can even compare, I just want to compare, but this may be biased towards, it happened to be that I worked in these water districts before. Talking about Santa Clara Valley, which is the Silicon Valley in the US, 3,300 square kilometers, 2 million people, budget is 290 million to do water resources management. In South Florida Water Management District, you have 6 million people. And then if you look at even this modeling and scientific support, it's 16 million. So much bigger than the Philippines, which is a small, not really small, but 46,000 square kilometers. So where is the water investments as far as water management is concerned? Now anyway, forward to 2015, new president came in. We revived again this EO as well as So we have several documents doing this and doing that, but did not prosper. In 2019, way before our President Duterte was getting out, was finishing his administration, we have so many other initiatives here and there. And then finally, 2019, we have again this legislation. Seemingly it's going to prosper. But then 2020, COVID came, so somehow it just kind of evaporated. So we already have, again, legislation and so on. And Senate even picked it up 2019. There was a consolidated bill 2021, but then new president came in. So I would say that after all those years, when President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. came in, finally we have a legislation proposed, the Department of Water, which hurdled the lower house of Congress. So it was, we have this news from the Manila Bulletin, December 14, we have this legislation already final and third reading in Congress, but then it has to go to the Senate. Anyway, this was the legislation that was approved, but it has to go to the Senate. It was submitted to Senate, actually, final and third reading December 12, submitted to, but until now, it's still with the Senate. But let me just quickly go through the main feature of this department. These are slides that I got from ASIC Eric Planta of NEDA. So if you look at the organizational structure, first of all, the National Water Resources Allocation Board, basically that will represent now the National Water Resources Board, NWRB. And then we have a resource allocation, but the big parts here, you have these bureaus, which is going to be that functional, structure that I talk about. There's a policy and planning, decision support system, which is basically, or mainly scientific support, technical services, and then you have local water service providers, because as of now, there's no agency that really takes care of these local water service providers as far as domestic water supply is concerned. And then you have these other services that's being offered. And then those existing water-related agencies that I showed in that big chart, table, where they have fragmentary and maybe some of them redundant functions. Some will be interfaced with the DWR, as far as some of them may be attached, and some of them will be subsumed by the department. So my final slide, basically, the next step is Senate. So that's the current Congress now, which is the upper house. We have, again, 7 bills, and a lot of them, they have so many things in common. Just like in Congress, 31 congressmen or congresswomen proposed those bills in the beginning of the 90th Congress in 2022, and then we consolidate all of this. There are 31 authors in the Congress that was, so there's going to be 7 here out of 24 senators. But if you really look at a lot of this, they have a lot of cut and paste, so to speak. So that's how it looks like. So that's my final slide. And so we still wait, but hopefully this will prosper somehow, sometime soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Len. So far, we've heard about inclusive approach to water futures from a marine scientist. We've heard about the proposed water resources department in the Philippines from our honorary EIC member, a hydraulic engineer. So we've heard from 2 Professor Emeriti, 3 if you count Doc Benny. Now we're inviting next someone who is, well, 2 decades maybe. The future, yeah. But the trailblazer nonetheless. So he is currently the city engineer of Quezoncity. He's both a lawyer and a civil engineer, so both a life member of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and the Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers. He's currently part of the National Board of the PIC and the president of PIC Quezoncity. Yeah, he also heads the infrastructure committee of the Quezoncity government. He used to work with the Commission on Audit, and yeah, he was also the former president of the Building Officials Organization of Metro Manila. To talk about the initiatives of Quezoncity in their drainage master plan, let's give a warm round of applause to Attorney Engineer Mark Dale Diamond Peral.
Thank you, Harold. Actually, Harold is part of this program that we are actually implementing in the Quezon City government. All right. So again, I'll be talking about the master planning for flood mitigation in Quezon City. Actually, this study is still being conducted by the Quezon City government with the support of the University of the Philippines. So next slide, please. Alright. So there are 3 highlights: geophysical environment of Quezon City, flood control measures, and model effects of interventions. For the geophysical environment of Quezon City, according to the Weather Bureau of the Philippine government, which is PAG-ASA, there's about 705 billion cubic meters of rainfall across the country. Almost 100% will be converted into surface runoff. So nothing is reused rather. So next, for Quezon City, here's our plan. We are targeting to decrease the surface runoff up to 20%. Because for us, in order to mitigate flooding, we should also use rainwater. Actually, while we are talking about flooding, incidentally, the country's problem right now will be water shortage due to El Nino. So the programs that we are actually studying together with the universities of the Philippines is actually interconnected with alternative water source. So next. So there are 4 major watersheds where surface runoff of Quezon City will go. First is the San Juan River or watershed. Second is Tuliahan watershed, Marikina, and Maykawayan in Bulacan. So as you can see here, majority will be going to San Juan watershed. Here's the San Juan River. All right. So this is the flood hazard map of Quezon City. As we can see, the major waterway which collects runoff is San Juan River, is actually the most flood-prone area. And if we will look into the map right now, that river is actually one of the highly dense populated area in Metro Manila. When we speak of Quezon City actually is the largest city across the Philippines in terms of population density. While Davao City is the largest in terms of area, Quezon City is about 25% of Metro Manila. And Davao is like 4 times of Metro Manila. But in terms of population density, Davao is less than 1,000 per square kilometer. And Quezon City, surprise, surprise, is almost 20,000 per square kilometer. So those are the other problems that we're facing. Right. However, only 8.5% of the land area of Quezon City is actually flood prone. Actually, the elevation of Quezon City is relatively higher compared with other cities within Metro Manila, compared with Manila, Pasay, Malabon, Navotas. Actually, Quezon City is situated at a higher elevation. For flood-prone areas, Quezon City is comprised of 6 districts. And the largest affected is District 1, where San Juan River is situated. And actually District 4. District 6 is covered by Tulyahan River. Right. So as identified, there are 37 field points as for flood-prone areas. There are 4 reasons for causes of flooding. Right. First one is ineffective drainage structures, which comprise more than 40%. Natural low elevation, more than 40%. Obstructed waterways, 31%. And proximity to waterway is more than 50%. So this is understandable because of the elevation of the surface. So what are the flood control measures? So there are 2, structural recommendations and non-structural recommendations. For structural recommendations, we have 4. Increased pipe capacity, that is the usual infrastructure intervention. Increased drainage capacity. Construction of storage facilities, actually is quite new in terms of public works in the Philippines. And reduction in peak flow rates through LIDA. So the existing road and drainage facilities across Quezon City, the concrete pipe, the water drainage pipes that we're using, is around 450 to 910 millimeters in diameter. And the minimum spacing between manholes is around 20 to 25. So if we will compare it with the current standard as recently issued by the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Department of Public Works and Highways tells us that the diameter for drainage systems should be 910 millimeters. And the distance would be 20 meters for manholes and inlets. So if we will compare, actually we're coping up, especially on the diameter of the drainage systems. So what are the other interventions? Waste reduction in channels and channel dredging. In addition thereto, with the help of the water companies, because here in the Philippines, and especially in Metro Manila, the water supply, the entities that provide water supply are private corporations. For Manila Water, they will be constructing an STP that will be covering Quezon City South, San Juan South, and Mandaluyong West, with a capacity of 120 million liters per day. Beneficiary would be around more than 700,000. And it will cross around 10 creeks within Quezon City. So if this will be complete, it would, in effect, reduce the waste that are thrown in the waterways. For declogging works, so these are efforts of the Quezon City government actually. For declogging works, out of the almost 800,000 drainage capacity, because of the drainage master plan, we are able to optimize our resources and peg our target to only 180,000 cubic meters. Meaning to say, the flood-prone areas is only the capacity, the drainage capacity of the flood-prone areas is only 180. We cannot actually fix all of these. Otherwise, the entire Quezon City government will be engineering. We'll be needing a lot of manpower and resources, so that's impossible. So with the help of the drainage master plan, we are able to optimize. And we are able to determine which of the districts have more concern than the other. So because of the drainage master plan, we are able to focus on 2 districts, District 1 and District 4. But then again, other districts, the largest in terms of size of land area is District 2. But District 2 is not yet flood prone, not yet, because it's not yet fully developed. So this is we are actually using our GIS on a day-to-day basis. We are, every time we go on the field, whether it is declogging works, whether it is infrastructure maintenance work, we always, at the end of the day, we map it out. So for last year, because I only assumed last year, January of last year, so we recorded this much of drainage maintenance work across the city. So these are the actual photos. In addition thereto, we are planning to install drainage pipe netting device to save actually the waterways from solid wastes. And we are currently doing channel dredging in coordination and in cooperation with the national government agencies, including MMDA, DPWH, and a private entity, which is San Miguel Corporation Infrastructure Group. So the creeks are Tulyat Creek, Diliman Creek, Dario Creek, Balingasa, and Bagbag. So here are some of the actual photos. So other structural recommendations, construction of storage facilities. Again, I'd like to reiterate that this kind of solution is new to our country, and I believe that Quezoncity is spearheading this solution. Retention ponds and detention basins. So for Quezoncity, one of the main problems of infrastructure development in the country is the acquisition of right-of-way. This applies mainly on roads for DPWH. But for us, in terms of detention basins, it also poses a challenge. So where will we put these detention basins? We know that we have this so much volume of rainwater. We need to store it or perhaps detain it for quite some time. But where will we place it? Where will we install it? So our solution is to use the existing public courts, basketball courts, and other public sports facilities. By doing this, government will not be spending on the acquisition of the land. So here is the sample of the design that actually we are implementing, and some of which we prepared all of the detailed engineering design and documents, but some of which we referred to DPWH for funding and implementation. So we have 3 planned programs for water detention basins. The first group or batch would be the natural one, 10 initial proposed location of detention basins. The second is 92 with pumps, because we need to pump out the water after it is initially detained. And the third batch would be 46 without pumps. So the first batch comprises of a total of 13,500 cubic meters of capacity. So spread across the country, spread across the city. And if we can see, those are not located in the downstream. Actually, they are located upstream. The idea is we will detain it in the upstream so that it will not cause flooding in the downstream. So here is one example of our detention basin. So here in Gulod, this is the location. Located in the upstream of a creek, Santa Monica in District 5. So for the second batch, we're planning to build 92 additional basins, retention basins with pump, with a capacity of total of 134,000 cubic meters. So one location is this one, in Novaliches still, upstream. So Millionaire's Park, covered court in Barangay San Agustin. So it is an existing public basketball court. So the third batch would be 46 detention basins without pump, and total capacity would be around 67,000 cubic meters. One example would be Millionaires Park Tennis Court, again in District 5. The topography of Quezoncity is the northern part would be situated in a higher elevation, and the southern part would be lower elevation. So we are trying to do these detention basins on a higher elevation. So another structural recommendation would be the reduction in peak flow rate through LIDA, or the low impact development approach. Again, this is something new in terms of public works in our country. For non-structural recommendations, there are two: city drainage system inventory and mapping, and rainwater harvesting system. So currently, we are doing inventory of existing infrastructure asset. The problem with the Philippines, with our country, is that we're not yet well versed with GIS. So for Quezoncity, we're doing all our best to make a map inventory of all infrastructure assets. So in terms of drainage, this is our actual accomplishment so far. So hopefully, University of the Philippines would still help us in order to complete all of the assets of the city in terms of mapping. Again, personally, I believe that GIS is very important in engineering and in solving engineering problems. So rainwater harvesting system. Currently, across the city, there are 159 schools. And out of the 159 schools, there are 119 of which have these rainwater harvesting systems, with a capacity of 500,000, total capacity of 500,000 liters of water. And the beneficiaries are around 200,000 citizens, Q citizens, we call them. We call ourselves Q citizens. So this is the map of all the rainwater harvesting across the city. The red ones are still without rainwater harvesting, or planning to install in all of the school buildings, actually. So this is an example of a newly constructed evacuation center in Barangay Bagong Silangan. It has a rainwater harvesting system here and a tank there. The rainwater harvesting is actually located in this inside. So for preparation for El Nino, since there will be no rains in a couple of months, we are trying to still use the rainwater harvesting system in terms of its storage capacity, but the water source would be an alternative one, and we are actually will be discussing it with NWRB and MWSS if they would allow us to install deep wells strategically where these rainwater harvesting facilities are situated. So these are actual photos of the rainwater harvesting systems. So for other green engineering initiatives, there is a man-made lake that we are trying to study in Barangay Bagong Silangan. Barangay Bagong Silangan actually is situated at the lowest part of Quezon City. This is the one that the place that where Yolanda struck the worst. There, since it's naturally a floodplain, however, for several reasons, despite it being a floodplain, a lot of residents actually built their homes there. So in order for government not to persuade further improvement on the area, we are planning to build a man-made lake with a capacity of 15,500 cubic meters. Within our city hall, within the Quezon City Memorial Circle, we are actually constructing a 250 cubic meters retention pond. And within City Hall compound, we're trying to develop a 13,050 capacity lagoon. And in the Quezoncity University, we've recently completed an urban farming innovation and learning center. So all of these contribute to the detention and flood mitigation, water detention. So here is an actual video of our ongoing construction of retention pond in Quezon Memorial Circle. And here is the lagoon within this Quezon City Hall compound that we are trying to develop further. And in addition for being a retention basin, we're actually studying on how to reuse the water that has been detained there. So we actually, for the other projects, we already partnered with an Israeli company called Netafim. So that is an irrigation company, and we actually installed one in Quezoncity University. So next, this is the urban farm. So third is the model effects of interventions. So for the model effects of combined interventions and improvements, there are installation of storage facilities, installation of additional outfalls, upsizing of pipes, and slope correction. The flood depth currently is around 0.1 to 3 meters. So after doing all of these modeled initiatives, we are looking at a flood reduction of almost 9.5 million cubic meters, lowering the flood depth to about 0.5 to 2 meters, hopefully. So currently, the existing capacity of the underground assets and waterways and everything is around 15 million cubic meters. So if we add the modeled interventions, we will be getting around 24.5 total capacity. The daily rainfall in Quezoncity is around 1.2 million cubic meters. The monthly is 38 and the annual is 439. So for daily rainfall, if there is an incident of rain equivalent to 1 day of rain, there will be no flood, assuming that we are able to do all of these. So no flood. If there is an incident of rain equivalent to 1 month of rain, it will, from the original estimated flood depth of 0.14 meters, it will go down to 0.08. So that's the difference. But if there is an equivalent rainfall of 1 year, it will be above the normal human height. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Dale. At this point, may I invite all three speakers here in front. In the interest of time, we will entertain maybe one question per speaker. So I'll invite them first for a photo op while you come up with questions. And maybe our committee chair. Yes. So, other questions from the audience?
My name is Jae-woo Park from Korea. I'm also chairing the ASEC. I have a question for, it's not a question actually. I want to share our experience with you actually. Department of Water Resources, you are much advanced than Korea. Yeah, in terms of the water management, we have this kind of structure. We had water quantity was under the Ministry of Construction and Maritime, and water quality was Ministry of Environment, and irrigation was Ministry of Agriculture. Less than 10 years, I think it's less than 10 years, water quantity and the water quality emerged. And then they were moved under the Ministry of Environment. So that's where we are right now in Korea. But here you are talking about the Department of Water Resources, making a separate independent department. So I guess part of the reason is you have more water, and I assume that you must have more water than Korea, and you must be affected by the typhoon much more severely than Korea, right? So, so you're still going on the way, right? So, if you haven't had that yet, but any comments for the Koreans?
Yeah, that idea of the Department of Water in the Philippines being an apex body, it's supposed to direct, coordinate, and maybe partner with all those line agencies, implementing agencies. Because I don't think we can, although some offices are subsumed or they become attached. So those are two different things in the department. But like, for example, DPWH, you cannot say, okay, we'll take care or we'll get your flood control. Rather, the department will then make the plans, make the operation studies, and then try to harmonize all the possible, maybe multipurpose infrastructure for, for the different purposes. But then delegate to the agencies, line agencies, you implement that. Because as of now, I think DPWH will do flood control independent or even nothing to do with a water supply. Although we have water reservoirs that were built way back then, multi-purpose. But perhaps that should be much more a common practice. So that's the idea. And then, of course, the DENR, Department of Environment and National Resources, they do the water quality. So again, the Department of Water should take care of pollution. It's one of the purposes of creating that. But whatever implementation of projects or programs or activities, perhaps DNR will do them, not the department. So we have that model actually in the Philippines, Department of Energy. It's like the apex body for energy development and management, but they never implement projects. They just plan and then they coordinate. But I always mention that coordination sometimes is like a nice word, but it's so difficult to coordinate because different departments, if you really look at it, it's people and then they have their own character and idiosyncrasy. And they don't want to be like, oh, I just give, so you really have to partner with them. So that's, I think, more easier or more efficient to harmonize all these different.
Maybe one more question. Sir.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I'm Singak Lee from KSC Korea. And I have a quick question to the last presenter. So why do you have a so high percentage of surface runoff for the rainfall in that Q city? I assume that that should be due to the pavement. But did you try to find out another approaches, for example, like artificial recharge of the surface runoff into the groundwater or something?
Well, the reason why there is so high volume of runoff is because the Philippine public infrastructure is not yet in the direction of actually storing rainwater as a general principle. Our public works, almost all, are focused on drainage systems. And drainage actually will not store water. It will just redirect the runoff towards the river. So far as your recommendation is concerned, that is our direction. We are actually studying on a lot of options, recharging the water table, soft pavements instead of the usual concrete, retention basins, all of these are being considered right now. But the challenge is, if we will adapt a certain technology that is being used, for example, in Korea or other countries, it might not be adaptable in our country, especially the natural amount of rain that we are receiving. Perhaps if we focus on soft pavements, it might be more expensive for us because we will be repairing the same over and over again. That's why the natural solution for us is concrete. But the effect of concrete is actually for us to prohibit the absorption of rainwater by the ground. So we're actually studying all of this, and it's not easy actually. But rest assured that the direction will be your recommendation, sir.
Maybe one last question from Dr. Checo.
I'm curious to hear from Dr. Cruz, like how biologists and other non-civil engineers frequently now regard or look at what are these engineers doing. Maybe we can have an eye-opener from the feedback of the more ecosystems and biologist scientists.
I wasn't able to mention it earlier, although I showed it in the problem tree. Since like Central Luzon, the water is coming from the watershed, and these are denuded already, and so the runoff is very quick. I mean, the rain that falls in the Cordillera, in the Sierra Madre, and even the Zambales Mountains, it's like surrounded by mountains. So because of the denudation of the forest, they all come down very quick. So we hope we can, the forest, and maybe we're looking at sponge cities, adapting that concept.
Okay, so that concludes our. Thank you very much. Round of,
Announcement on behalf of ASEC, thank you very much for your presentation. As soon as we receive this recorded file, the file will be on YouTube. So go to YouTube and type ASEC, and you will be YouTube star soon.
Yes, we'd like to thank our speakers, Dr. Cruz, Dr. Tabios, and Attorney Peral. Before we close this session, I just want to share with you the AI-generated image of our envisioned water future in Waterway in 2050. Can you please the good one? This is the actual result. You mentioned about trees, people, dolphins. So it's already shared, I think. So just allow the sharing in Zoom.